This is such a legit setup. This is so much better than what I normally do.
Wait.
At age 12, most of us are preoccupied about becoming teenagers. Shannon Wilk decided to become a bass player, photographer, and start her own publication interviewing the biggest names in rock music. Welcome to episode 4 of the Rock On Podcast.
Well, interview already started, so that's good.
Okay.
We're not doing any formal introduction, which is good.
Perfect.
What do you do?
So I'm a bass player. I have 2 bands, one being Ultraviolet. We're based in New Jersey. Well, the rest of the band is based in New Jersey. I'm based in Connecticut. Yeah. That's my main project right now. And I also have another band called Broken Road, which is based in Connecticut. We just played at the Whiskey A Go Go this week, which is very exciting. That was our first show. So,
are you all like friends from the area, you said, or how did you all meet?
So yeah, for Ultraviolet, we met. So the 3 of them. The singer, the drummer, and the guitar player, they all met. They're all from New Jersey. They all met at different shows, like local shows. And the drummer and I became friends through like mutual friends. Like actually the drummer for Broken Road is the one that kind of introduced us. So, and they didn't have a bass player and they asked for a fill-in. So originally I filled in for one show and I was like, hey, can I like be in the band? Because they didn't have a bass player.
You made your way to the band, yeah.
Yeah, they didn't have a bass player, and I was like, you know what? I'm down to make the drive to New Jersey for this. So.
Which is the funny thing, because everyone wants to be a guitar player.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to sing. But bass players are more limited.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the good thing about bass players is like there's always work. Like everyone's always looking for a bass player, I feel like, because there's so many guitar players and so many, whatever. So it's very, very good to finally play with people my own age, which is awesome. I'm used to playing with older people. So
well, you were just telling me you're 17 years old?
17, yeah.
And you started playing what age?
I played guitar first, actually, and I started playing guitar when I was around like 10.
And then you went to the dark side.
And I went to the dark side of bass, yeah. I started playing bass when I was around, let me math this real quick. It was like 5 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So
okay.
12, I guess. Yeah, so I started playing bass then. But yeah, most of the bands I've been in have been with older people, so it's really nice to play with people my age doing original music and whatnot. So, in Broken Road, I've known those guys for a really long time. They're like my closest friends. So
one of the reasons I reached out, obviously, I know you have your band going on, and then you just told me you have this tour happening with a couple names that you guys are excited about.
Yeah, so Ultraviolet, we did a show at the Stone Pony in Asbury Park, New Jersey, and we ended up selling the show out. It went really, really well. And after that, we had a ton of venues knocking at our door and, people who wanted to do shows with us. So we started just booking a ton of dates, and we've got shows now opening for Plush, which is incredible.
Cool.
Our band is 3 out of 4 members female, so to be playing with a band like Plush is like, it's so cool. We're all so excited for that.
It fits the bill. It
definitely fits the bill, yeah. Especially, and the rest of the band's from Jersey. I'm from Connecticut, and we're opening for them in Connecticut, which is really cool for me because it's like hometown with such a like cool band and national act. So
you have to drive. You make quite a drive, you said, for the band?
Yeah, so for our rehearsals, we rehearse. We used to rehearse at our drummer's house, which is about an hour and a half from me. We rehearse at our guitar player's house now, which is like a 2-hour drive from me. So it's a lot, and we rehearse every weekend. So it's definitely a lot, but it's so worth it. Like honestly, because the New Jersey rock scene is incredible, and the venues there are very supportive of original music. So it's great to have a band out of there where we can actually play out and make money, because in Connecticut a lot of the venues are only for like tribute bands. They want to pay tribute bands because that's what a lot of people want to hear,
That's what draws also the money. Come have a drink and the tribute band and here.
Exactly. Yeah. But New Jersey's very different in that way, and it's really cool. So I'm happy to make the drive in order to be able to do original music. So
nice. And then how many 17-year-olds are living the rock and roll life?
Yeah, no, definitely. I always say I have kind of a unique. I have a unique life experience from a lot of people my age.
Your bandmates are about the same age?
Yeah, so in Ultraviolet, we're actually 15, 16, 17, 18. So,
wow.
Yeah.
And you guys are doing some important dates coming up, so that's really cool.
Yeah, which is, it's so good. It's taken off really quickly. Like, I just played my first show with the band in October. So, it's really, really exciting. And then in Broken Road, our drummer's 19, so I'm the youngest in that band. Our drummer's 19, our singer's 23, and our guitar player's 25.
And your singer is from?
France. Yes, our singers. So our singers from France. We played at the Whiskey on Wednesday this week, and we actually met our singer the day of the show for the first time.
That's crazy.
So her name's Kim. We've been friends for several years.
And like online, or did you actually met before?
No, we've never met before.
Oh, right, because you met at the day of the show.
We had mutual friends, and we ended up needing a singer for this gig. And so I was like, well, Kim's gonna be at NAMM, so I was like, do you want to do it? And she was like, hell yeah. So it ended up working out where we met the morning of the show, and we rehearsed for a couple hours. And then we went to Loden and we did the show, and it could have went very bad under the circumstances, but it was incredible, and people seemed to really enjoy it. So, especially doing original music, that's kind of hard to pull out with one day of rehearsal, but it was very good. It went very well. So
that's quite a story. I don't think I've ever heard of a forming a band. It's the beauty of internet. It's the beauty of communication, right?
Yes.
The
social media,
globalization, social media.
Definitely.
There's nothing that is almost impossible nowadays, at least in music. Or like during the pandemic, right? Everyone was practicing from home, and it's like a millisecond delay, which is almost nothing.
Yep.
But it's an aspect.
Makes all that much of a difference.
Now, one of the aspects I was really interested about getting a few words from you is not only you're a musician, but you're a fellow photographer.
Yes.
And you run interviews too.
Yeah.
I wish I would have started at 17.
Oh, if only you knew. I actually started, so kind of a little bit about my story, starting in the music industry. When I was like 12 years old, I had just turned 12, when I decided that I wanted to start doing interviews with bands, because I wanted to get connections in the industry for when I was good enough at music to be able to play out and be in bands and stuff. So I started interviews for that reason, and I started my own publication when I was 12. That was it was a unique thing for me, and like my mindset at the time, like I had no concept of that being, I guess, out of the norm. Like I wanted to do it, so I did.
You're just a go-getter, and 12 years old, thinking starting your own publication. What was it like? Was it like like print as well, or just online blogging?
What I did is originally I just started on Facebook. Like I just would reach out to bands on social media and ask if they would do interviews. Like that's what I did, and I would publish them on Facebook. Then eventually I got a website and went from there. But kind of how I started is when I was 11, I went on the Monsters of Rock cruise. I don't know if you're familiar. Yeah, so that's what kind of threw me into the rock scene. That was my first concert, and it was like my first 25 concerts in a week. So it was a lot. And meeting all those artists, it was really good for me. That's been probably the biggest thing for me networking wise.
Like it sparked, started sparking you.
Yeah, that was the big moment for me. And so I got a bunch of connections from that, and that's how I ended up getting interviews. They're like, oh, look, this cute kid starting to interview bands and whatnot. So that's kind of how I started.
You were what, 12?
Yeah.
12, okay. So I have a 6-year-old daughter, and I kind of want to bring her along for interviews.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Maybe she breaks your record.
It is possible. I know, right? She's going to beat me.
I do have a cool story about her, though. You were talking about Plush, and Plush recently toured with The Warning.
Yes.
So I know
I love The Warning.
I've known the girls from The Warning for many, many years.
Oh, that's awesome.
And actually, they were recording at Sphere Studios.
Oh, really?
They were working on some material. I asked the manager. They knew my work, so they're like, yeah, sure, you can come by. Also, the people, the managers, so the people from the studio where the band was recording, they were also friends of mine. So I would have been there regardless. Point is, I got away with bringing my daughter while they were recording some albums. So I got to bring my 9-month-old daughter to
That's awesome.
while they're recording. And now I've taken her to the Warning shows as well. I've shown her pictures. Like, look, you were in the studio when you were months old, and now I bring you to the concert. There are concerts. So
that's so amazing. Oh my gosh, I love that.
So we have a record to break. By before 12, she can be doing some interviews. But that's really cool.
Yeah, Ultraviolet, we love The Warning too. We actually covered Choke at one of our shows.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's like one of our, along with Plush, like that's one of the bands we want to do a show with. So hopefully that'll happen at some point.
Pau.
Yes, let's do it.
And Danny, let's make it happen for. I mean, they're pretty busy nowadays, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I guess,
They're doing great things. It's so good.
A trip to Mexico, maybe it's coming.
Right.
So,
right.
so you can come. But yeah, that's really really intense.
Yeah.
I feel that there's always been female players, girl players, but now it's kind of like obviously taking a bit more main stage.
Absolutely.
It's more highlighted, and which is cool.
Yeah. My parents.
I was gonna ask you that.
Yeah.
Did you have some influence at home?
No,
or?
so actually, my parents definitely are the ones that got me into rock music. Like they played that growing up and stuff, like all the '80s bands and stuff. So that's definitely what got me into that. But instrument-wise, like people always ask me if my family's into that. Nobody in my family plays instruments, which is kind of crazy. But when I wanted to buy my first guitar when I was like 10 years old, my parents were like, "Oh, there's gonna be another thing that lasts a day," and like whatever. So they wouldn't buy me a guitar. So I saved up my money and got the cheapest guitar I could find on eBay. It's like $100 guitar or whatever. I still play it. It's actually really good.
I was gonna say you still own it. You probably
I still
have
own
it.
Yeah, and somehow it's actually not terrible. So it's actually plays pretty decently.
It was a great investment. 100.
Yeah, exactly.
Your parents,
My dad went to college for photography. He actually shot Black Sabbath for a hit parader back in the day, which was pretty cool. That's like one of his favorite stories to tell. But
what years was he active with Hit Parader?
He actually, so he never published anything with them, but he did shoot Black Sabbath and Motorhead. That was the bill, because Hit Parader was actually based in Connecticut back then. But yeah, so my dad, he stopped doing photography for a long time, and then we kind of got back into it together through the Monsters of Rock cruise. So we actually are both on the media team for the cruise now. That started when I was about 13. We started doing that together, which is really awesome. And the cruise has been a big, like, I guess,
it's opened a lot of doors for you and
definitely.
the networking.
It's been like the biggest thing for me, like starting, obviously getting the connections for those first interviews I did, up until, joining the media team for that when I was 13. I've gone every year since I was 11 that they've had it. So, so from, getting the connections for my first interview to joining the media team, and then I ended up actually playing on it last year. I played at a jam, at the big theater there, which was like the most full circle moment possible, seeing as, I saw my first concerts there. I got my first, that was the first thing that introduced me to the rock scene, really. So
you didn't have, you couldn't run anywhere if you messed up. There was nowhere else you could go.
No, so it was crazy.
You're in the middle of the sea.
In the middle of the ocean, right?
In the middle of the ocean, yeah.
Right, yeah. It was a crazy experience, because I literally got a text that day of the show. I didn't know I was going to be playing. So I get a text from the guy who puts on the jam there. He was like, "Hey, he was like, do you have your bass, and do you know Kiss Me Deadly by Lita Ford?" I didn't. I had my bass, didn't know the song. I mean, I know the song, but I never learned it. So I was like, you know what? Yeah, I do know it. That's
now we know. She lied.
Yeah, exactly. That's
my philosophy. How you get it done. Fake it till you make it.
Yeah. So the show was like a couple hours away. So I was like, you know what? I can do it. I was like, I'm not gonna miss this opportunity because I never learned this song. I'll make it happen. And then he texted me after that. He was like, "Okay, you're gonna be playing." He texted me like the lineup, and I saw I was gonna be playing with Will Hunt, who's the drummer for Evanescence. And I was like, he's like one of my favorite drummers. So I was like, oh boy, I better get my shit together. But yeah, so I was playing with him. Are you familiar with Shez Kane? She's an incredible female singer. She was singing that. And then Will Doty, he's a touring keyboard player for Poison.
But I mean, you got a great head start, and
Thank you.
That's a bright future.
Thank you.
Then again, it's like NAMM and being at the Monsters of Rock cruise. It's all the networking. It's the impression you make.
That's the big thing for me, for sure. It's like, I think that's the most important thing to be successful in the music industry. It's all about who you know, and also like what I've come to learn is everyone knows everyone.
Right.
So you always want to try to make a good impression on people and get to know everyone, because if people know your name, then you hope your name comes up in a room when people say, "Oh, do you know a bass player?" You know what I mean? So yeah.
Now tell me about your photography.
My photography, yeah. So I started that when I was around 12 years old.
Right.
I had never photographed anything before, so I just literally took a camera. So I was friends with the band Vixen since I was very young. And so I ended up reaching out to them and asking if I could shoot their show. So that was my first concert I ever shot, was that. I had literally never worked a camera until the day of the show. I was like, I should probably take some pictures before the show so
automatic.
I know,
Automatic.
No, literally, yeah. I shot on automatic for a while because I just didn't know what I was doing.
I shot a lot of JPEGs in my early days before I did RAW. Yeah,
me too. It's just one of those things you learn as you go, you know. Especially because when my dad went to college, it was still film, so we were kind of adjusting together, you know. But yeah, it kind of just grew from there. I mean, one of my highlights, at least, of my photography career has been my dad and I photographed Kiss together, which was like insane. I was 15 when I photographed Kiss. Isn't that wild? I didn't get to photograph it, but I did get to review their final show, which was insane.
Wow.
It was
That's
awesome.
Cool. I'm seeing myself, if I would have started at your age, you know, that would have been pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I see the relationship you have with your dad and how much of an influence maybe he is in your photography and your taste for music.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's an amazing bond. I mean, it's heartwarming because I have my 6-year-old daughter, and some of the bands I know, and like I'm able to go side stage and she's taking some pictures,
That's awesome.
or I have her on my shoulders and she's taking pictures. She brings her little toy camera.
I love that.
And I also sometimes let her borrow my camera, but and she gets so excited. Look, Dad, I took some pictures. But
that's awesome.
It's heartwarming because I see that, and I think big props to that. Wait,
yes, thank
for that,
you, Dad.
that would be
the clap track.
Yes. That's pretty awesome.
That's definitely a big highlight, and getting to do that with my dad was really cool. Yeah, definitely.
Who would your rock and roll photography hero be?
You know the photographer Mark Weiss? He shot a ton of bands back in the day. I mean, it's gotta be Mark, probably. He shot all my favorite bands back in the day, at least for studio stuff. His studio stuff is incredible.
Being the fly on the wall, kind of, once you know the band and they're comfortable.
He's so insanely creative with portrait shoots, which is something that I've struggled with, coming up with, unique ideas. Also, Jeremy Saffer. My dad and I did one of his photography seminars, and I learned everything I know about, shooting in a studio from him, which was great because he's,
his unique
he's the
style.
man.
Yeah,
his style is incredible,
which is
just like I said about Mark, he's got this creativity and uniqueness about his photos that it's hard to come by with people. You see the brick wall photos all the time with bands and stuff. So when people are doing unique stuff like Jeremy and Mark do, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Looking up to the photographers, it's kind of like a generation looking up to a band that are slightly older than them. For me, what did it? One of my rock and photography heroes is Robert Knight. Are you familiar with the name? By any chance? Yeah, Robert Knight. So meeting him was really awesome. And then Preston. It's funny because one day I was at the Hard Rock when the Hard Rock Hotel was in Vegas before they rebranded it to the Virgin. And there was the picture of Freddie Mercury at Wembley Stadium, bending backwards. And I took a picture.
Yeah,
and
those pictures, all those from that whole show, all the pictures from that are great.
And I was like, I know about Neil Preston's work, and I'm like, maybe one day I'll meet him. And I met him here, so
that's awesome.
You can say I met two of my rock and roll photography heroes.
There's this band I worked with in the studio called Magnets for Maniacs. I've done a couple of shoots with them, and we were doing a portrait shoot with them recently, and it was just before the holidays, and my mom ended up pulling out a box of Christmas costumes, and they all put on the Christmas costumes, and we're all messing around in the studio. And after that, they were so comfortable, immediately they were all posing and messing around with each other, and those ended up being the best shots because they were so comfortable and they weren't being too serious, so it's stuff like that where it's that's how you get that's how you get those not candid, but basically candid moments in the studio.
And you can tell if they're comfortable. It shows.
It comes across.
We all know.
Yeah, and even if they're not comfortable, you got to know how to make them look like they are.
Yeah. That's a good one. I mean, right? Famous people don't want to be approached the same way all the time. Oh, please, can I get your autograph? But first time I met Corey Taylor, they were in the studio recording with Stone Sour. So my friend, of course, asked me, he said, just be we're shooting some portraits. Yeah. And then he's like, just be professional, don't fan. I'm like, yeah, of course. And then he's standing there, and I'm just like, hey, what's up, dude? Nice shirt. That's it. So I guess he liked that. Then he started chatting, and it's just like, okay, you comfortable? You're chatting with me, or we're good.
I had a moment like that. Back to the Monsters Are Rockers. That jam I played, I looked at the set list, and it said who was playing each song because it was a big jam. I saw I was playing the song after David Ellefson. I was like, I have to follow one of the best bass players on the fucking planet. Yeah. But it's just it's just Dave. It's just Dave. You gotta act normal. You gotta act like he's not.
If you look at it this way,
Megadeth, right?
he got to open for you.
Yeah, right. It was so weird too because he was playing Fantasy by Aldanova, which is like totally not in his league at all, but he crushed it, of course. But that whole event was really great because it was like I was in groups of these like incredible musicians, and it was really cool to be surrounded by that. And it's one of those things, like you said, you just got to treat them like normal people because that was one of those moments where I was like, oh, I deserve to be here. Like you gotta tell yourself that sometimes because you're like, oh, like they're all famous, you know, but like I wouldn't be there if I didn't work for it, you know. So it's like when I was standing in a group of, you know, Jeff Scott Soto and Todd Latore, who sings with Queensryche, and like all these incredible musicians, and I'm just like, they're just like, oh, hi, I'm Jeff, nice to meet you, and I'm like, this is not how it's supposed to go.
I admire that you're just really working so hard to go after anything you've been wanting to do. Yeah. Whether your photo, your music. I think there's a lot of inspirational words and situations for people your age. I was going to say younger people, but you're only 17 years old. So people your age, they're trying to make it. They're trying to find their space or their spot in the music industry.
But I've been lucky enough that I've been able to, you know, work my way up to get invited to certain things that have enabled me to connect with the right people and, you know, make the distance not matter, you know. And actually, I just graduated high school. I graduated a semester early, so I'm going to be moving to Nashville.
Oh, wow.
In a few months once I turn 18, so that's really exciting. So I am actually moving to a music mecca. Okay. So that's going to be, it's like I'm starting, so I just graduated like 2 weeks ago, so now I'm here. So, yeah, applause. So it's like I'm starting this next chapter of, you know, my life and my career, so I'm really excited to kind of see what's next.
That's really cool. Final question. If you had to choose between music or photography?
Oh boy. So I kind of try to do everything in the music industry because that's how you got to make money, you know, is you gotta kind of be a jack of all trades if you wanna make a living. Right. So photography is kind of where I make my money in the music industry, but definitely I prefer playing shows and, you know, recording stuff. That's like my favorite. That's playing bass.
That's your
I
happy
love it.
I mean, they're both your happy places.
I love them both, honestly. Like, but if my ideal is to be, you know, a touring bass player. So I'd have to say that for sure. Right if I can make a living doing that would be the ideal.
I mean, it's very possible. If you've accomplished all this by 17,
I know.
I'm so excited and so happy to see what's coming up for you in the next couple of years.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Really cool. I really appreciate that. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you very much. It was supposed to be a 5-minute interview. I think we're. Oh my God! Did we just lose the video?
Oh no! Oh no!
At least we have the audio.
Yeah, we got the audio.
This is gonna be so dumb and funny. But it's going as a podcast
and
episode
we're
anyway.
back.
So we're back because the camera stopped recording. I guess we reached the limit. It was supposed to be a 5-minute interview, and it turned to like what, half an hour?
Yep.
Sorry about that.
I'm good like that.
Okay.
I don't stop talking.
You did
ever.
warn me though. You did warn me. Like, don't give me a microphone because I won't stop talking. She did say that. Full disclosure. Your MySpace, your LinkedIn.
I'm not that old.
I know.
That's great.
Give us all your socials and your podcast too, and your photography.
Yeah, so on most of my most of the socials, I think Instagram, Facebook, TikTok is all at Shannon Wilk Music, and then I also have my photography Instagram, which is Shannon Wilk _ and then you can follow my band Ultraviolet on all social media at Ultraviolet _NJ, and you can check out all our dates and stuff. We got tons of dates on the East Coast with many bands you probably know and are familiar with. So we've got music coming out soon, so look out for that.
And your podcast.
Podcast? Podcast is Rockin' Interviews on Spotify and all the places you find podcasts, really. And my website, rockinginterviews.com, and shannonwilk.com is all my other stuff. Got lots of stuff.
This is going to be like the Star Wars crawl.
You got to do it. You got to do it like those ads where it's like at the end where it's like in like 10 times speed.
I'll speed it up.
Some people have had changes in behavior, hostility, agitation, depressed mood, and suicidal thoughts or actions while taking or after stopping chats.
Shannon, thanks a lot for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tip my hat for everything you're doing. And big props to your dad. So,
thank you.
Dad, when you see this interview,
hi, Dad.
Good job.
Thank you so much.
Enrique, Shannon, and we're live at NAMM 2024.
Yeah, rock and roll.